Goalkeepers, nervous strikers, they'll deliver. Crowd roars erupted, you can feel the quake. 80,000.
Hello there, everyone. You're welcome to the channel. This is Talk Football Live, and we'll be talking about different football sort of related news and developments in the past, I'll say, a couple of days. And so let's go straight into it. So first off, I want to say congratulations to Crystal Palace, that have, qualified for the semi-final of the FA Cup. Beat obviously Fulham 3-0. Ebere Chieze scoring 1 goal and coming up with another assist. And Eddie Nketiah, former Arsenal player, getting the final goal. Mm-hmm. Of course, Sarr getting latching onto the assist from Ibereze, to score the second goal in the game. So, from a Nigerian perspective, I want to say this: Ibereze was so close to playing for Nigeria. He was so close. You can't believe how close Ibereze was to switching his national team allegiance to playing for Nigeria, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Would I say was it selection issues, or would I say political issues, or whatever? But it didn't happen. But nice to see that he's really thriving and playing very well for Crystal Palace. I just hope he can get, with due respect to Crystal Palace fans, I just hope he can get a better move to a club that can actually compete for titles on a regular basis, or compete for titles as of right, maybe the Premier League, compete for FA Cup or domestic trophies, compete for Champions League or other European sports. So that'll be so that was, for me, that's nice that he's able to keep performing very well as he is. So for me, happy days for him. Only sad that he didn't get to play for the Nigerian Super Eagles, and he plays for England, obviously. So kudos and fair play to them. And then we have to talk about something now. This news. First off, I have several thoughts about this, and sometimes I want to cry about it, I want to laugh about it, and then I just say, okay, what if? What gives? Chelsea, the first team of Chelsea lost to, I think the under 18 sides, Chelsea, one of the Chelsea Academy teams. They lost 3-0 to that academy side. And then, of course, you have Enzo Maresca fuming, very, very upset that they lost. They lost, and were completely embarrassed by the academy side. Now, there are different ways I want to look at this. First off, I get it. It makes good, engaging content. It makes for people, it gives people something to talk about, especially since Chelsea won't be playing until the 3rd of Thursday, 3rd of April. So I get that. But how are you having such news come out? I think that happens every time you have academy sides playing against the first team, indoor closed, and indoor friendly, or just in indoor games that really don't count for anything, just more or less fitness of the players. But now somehow it gets to be news for everyone to read about, and heaps a little more pressure on Enzo Maresca and his players. And then you have mockery from rival fans, and you have the Enzo Maresca outers at Chelsea, or rather the fans who are Enzo Maresca out at the minute. You have them jumping at the bit to talk so much about it and make too much about it, in my opinion. So and then again, it begs the question: so are we saying he got outsmarted by the academy coach? Is that what happened, or was it just a session where he oversaw both teams play, and then the result was turned out to be what it is? So for me, it's really nothing, but I hope that gives the players a kick up the backside and gets them revved up, because if you've been that embarrassed by people who are looking up to you, by kids who are looking up to you, then you should you should have the motivation to to get better and play better. But then again, probably the different rules are applied in that game. And then as well, a lot of players were off on the international break, and I'm not sure they really would have participated fully. Probably their minutes would have been managed, and probably they didn't go full tilt. But anyway, it makes for interesting discussion. And from a Nigerian perspective, a Nigerian eligible youngster that plays for Chelsea's academy obviously scored a goal in that game. So Chizi Ezewata, Wanta, plays for Chelsea Academy, and he's someone that everyone's been raving about, both in the England national team setup, that's the age grade side, the England national team setup, and then as well at Chelsea Academy as well. He used to play for Charlton, and I think that's where he joined Chelsea from. So for me, I've talked about him before. He's been scoring lots of goals, and I think this is someone that you want to keep your eyes on. Whether from the English divide or from the Nigerian divide, you should keep your eyes on the player. And given my persuasions, I'm like Nigerian Football Federation. You have the under-17 tournament. You have the under-20 AFCON that'll be coming on later on this year. These are the players that you should be looking at to complement what you already have, in addition to the likes of Arehi Parabo and Charles Agada. So imagine if you have an attack line rather, or a striking combination. I wouldn't call it combination, but if you have these three strikers in your team, you have Arehi Parabo that plays in Lillestrøm now, you have Charles Agada, and then you have Chizi Eze-Nwata in that under-20 side. Then you have the source for lots of goals in that competition, and probably would help Nigeria, obviously their obvious quest to win that tournament. So for me, I should be kept on him. And speaking on that, there's this series I've been doing, which is essentially looking at top Nigerian talents at different club academies. So at different clubs. So I've done one for Bayer Leverkusen. You should check out that video after this one, and then one for Chelsea will be coming up as well. So keep your eyes peeled on the channel for that one as well. And then some transfer news. Trent Alexander Arnold, it seems right now that he will be heading to Real Madrid. So it seems this is Madrid's new strategy. Wait for a player, bid our time, and wait till his contract runs out, and then you get him, and then you get him to sign for you for nothing. Well, technically not for nothing, but you don't get to pay huge transfer fees, but then the player gets a huge sign-on bonus, and of course the wages as well. So you have some Liverpool fans who have been going irate about it, saying sort of downgrading what he's done, downgrading what he's achieved at Liverpool, saying he's not a real Liverpool legend. Some are going as far as burning his shirt. So what do you think you achieve by that? What are you going to achieve? So when you burn a player's shirt, you say, "Oh no, I wanted to go to Real Madrid, but you burnt my shirt, and that I wore with pride all these years, that I won trophies and titles for you all these years. You burnt that shirt. I will surely decide to play for Liverpool." And I think one mistake that fans make is this: they refuse to look at where the blame should be laid. And the blame in this circumstance should be laid at the feet of FSG, the owners of Liverpool. Because how do you allow a player like Trent Alexander-Arnold, though for me, I don't see him as the best right back in the world. I don't even see him as the top 5 right back in the world, but obviously he's very, very good. But a player that's so important to you, and a lot of clubs who want to sign him, and then you just allow him run his contract down. And then suddenly you think with 6 months to go, and then Real Madrid will come in and offer him possibly double the wages he's earning, or at least more than what he's earning at the minute. And that is when you want to try to sign him. And then there's this thing that we as fans, we do when it comes to players. We say, "Oh, if you really love the club, why don't you sign the contract? You shouldn't be a glory hunter. You should be looking to earn such huge salaries and all." But we forget this. If, from the Liverpool perspective right now, if Alexander Arnold wasn't playing very well, wasn't that good, was rubbish with his passing, absolutely no good, and then the club would have dropped him or would have sold him, and fans themselves would have been complaining, "Oh, Alexander Arnold is no good. Why do you keep playing him?" The question of loyalty wouldn't have come into place. The question of, keep him in, let him play, he's an academy player, even if he's rubbish at the minute, just keep playing him. No, you as a fan, you'd want him to go. You want him to be benched, at the very least, you'd want him to be benched. At the very least, you want him to sit on the bench. Or if his sort of poor performances, would have continued, then you would have wanted him sold. So this loyalty thing in football that people talk about, it doesn't really exist as people think. The only set of group of people who are completely loyal are the fans of the club. Every other person, player, manager, owner of the club, not really loyal, because the owner of the club can end up, if he gets a good offer from another buyer, who sell the club, who could sell it up, could sell off the club. A player gets a good offer, could go. The coach as well could get a good offer, and it's gone. But the blame, when you're talking about why a player is living on a free, should be laid at the feet of the club. And the Liverpool fans, is this a thing that you guys like to do? I remember Steven Gerrard, where Steven Gerrard was linked to move to Chelsea. Whether he had agreed terms already, looking to join Chelsea, and then they started, burning his shirt. And then someone like Steven Gerrard, for all he's done for Liverpool, and then you have such backlash. For me, it's just uncalled for. There's no need for that. Football doesn't need any sort of intimidation or whatsoever. What football needs right now is fairness, allow people to play. With the business side of things, you have your ducks in a row. When it comes to the business side of things, players renewing their contracts, you need to have owners, managers, chief executives who have their eyes firmly fixed on the ball, who have their eyes firmly fixed on financial developments, contract durations, and things like that. So there's no need to blame the player. There's no need to blame the player. And then playing for Real Madrid is a once in a lifetime opportunity for some players. I know some people say, "Oh, Liverpool is a big club. Why would you not want to play for Liverpool and retire at Liverpool?" Well, he may have an ambition as well to say, "I've won everything that I can possibly win at Liverpool." He's won Champions League, he's won a league title, and possibly, most likely, or rather more than likely, he's going to win another Premier League title come the end of the season, because it seems Liverpool are just waltzing to the title. So he'll see it from his own perspective that I've done everything I've done. I wanted to achieve at my boyhood club. Now it's time for me to try, a different challenge, a new challenge. So for me, fair play to him. Off he goes to Real Madrid. But then again, his move to Real Madrid, I've got this question: how is he going to fare at Madrid in terms of? Because for me, I don't think he's a very good defender. I think he's good on the ball. His passing range is excellent on the ball. But when he's really asked to defend, that's where the question arises. That's where you begin to pick holes in his game. So Alexander Arnold, can he cope with La Liga? But maybe you can say on the flip side of things, he signed for one of the two top clubs, Real Madrid. I mean, in La Liga, that is Real Madrid. And you could also argue that Real Madrid will always dominate the ball in most games, except maybe when they play Barcelona, and even less so when they play Atletico Madrid. Other than that, they'll dominate the ball most games, or in every game they play, apart from these two games. So then his ability on the ball then becomes more visible, more important, more significant to the Madrid side, and then his lack of defensive prowess, in my opinion, then doesn't matter that much. So that's the Trent Alexander Arnold bit. And then talking about Liverpool as well, still on Liverpool, there's a talk of Liverpool signing Alexander Isak. We're having a talk of, the executives of Liverpool are feeling confident that they can sign, Alexander Isak. I think that wouldn't be an easy deal to do. But if they do it, it will be a very good one for Liverpool, obviously, because he's a phenomenal striker. But I still remain, Victor Osimhen is way better than Alexander Isak. It's not even close, in my opinion. But that's a different discussion for another day. But that poses a question, because if you're signing Isak, are you still going to keep Salah? Because obviously, for me, I think Salah is leaving. Salah should be leaving Liverpool at this minute. Especially, this is the best way for him to leave. He came to the club, won Champions League titles, won Premier League title, and then you're coming towards the end of your stay at the club, and then you win another Premier League title. For me, that is absolutely the best way, to leave. That's the best way to leave. You leave on a high, you leave with a title under your belt, and the fans have something to celebrate while you leave. So, but the question for me then is, if you're going to sign Isak, what then happens to Salah? That is, if he stays, because you have people who are saying, Salah will possibly renew his contract, with Liverpool, which I don't think he should do anyway, but possible he could renew his contract with Liverpool. If he does that, then how do Liverpool play going forward? Because Isak then becomes the main man, because you're not going to spend 120 million pounds on Alexander Isak or something close, and then play him sub Salah. That is, play him as secondary to Salah, or play him as a second fiddle to Salah. That's if Salah stays. So that is the question. And then Isak is too good to just be that guy that presses, like Robert Firmino. Firmino was a decent player, don't get me wrong, but I think Isak is the better player, and definitely is the better goal scorer than Robert Firmino was. So Isak is not a player you say, oh, you're just going to press all day, and then if you're able to get maybe 6-7 goals end of the season, you should be happy with that. No, he's someone that should be the main man at any club he chooses to sign for. He should be the main man at any club he chooses to join. So then what does that mean for Salah if he indeed stays? So for me, if I'm Mohamed Salah, I would be leaving. I would call my agent and say, my man, I think I have to go. If once I hear rumblings and rumors and anything that is slightly concrete, with respect to, Alexander Isak signing for Liverpool, because you don't want to be in that position where suddenly you become second fiddle. And then the question of loyalty that I talk about comes in, because you can say, okay, Salah gets convinced to sign a new deal with Liverpool, maybe a 2-year extension, and then you have Isak coming. Isak comes in, he becomes the main man. Slowly and surely, Salah will be phased out. And then the question of loyalty, oh, he should have been loyal to Liverpool, then people won't be saying then that Liverpool should be loyal to Salah. Most fans then will be saying, oh, Salah, it's time for him to go. Some who are a bit rational will say, oh, Salah, he's been a good servant for Liverpool, but I think it's time for him to leave now and he should go. Others will say Salah is not good enough. So for me, I think he should just leave and allow Liverpool to rebuild. Liverpool, they should have gotten money for him last, season, last transfer window, not this one. The one previously, they should and could have gotten money for him, but they decided to persist. I think was it Etihad, they were willing to offer north of 200 million pounds for, or rather north of 100+ million pounds for the services of Mo Salah. But for whatever reasons, Liverpool decided not to accept, and they decided to keep Salah. So sometimes you snooze, you lose. Sometimes you choose to gamble. That's what happens. It's all a matter of choice. The choice you make, you have the benefit of Salah still being at the club and helping you to win it, your second league title in, let's say, 10 years. To win your second league title, and your first league title after Jurgen Klopp, that's the benefit. But on the flip side of it, you get to lose an informed Salah, a Salah playing at the top of his powers, playing at the top of his game on a free. So that's the risk that you stand to face. But all good. I think they've got a title from his staying, so I don't think the owners would worry too much. So Salah goes and Alexander Isak, comes in. Still rumors and reports. Let's see how concrete that becomes. So Liverpool fans, if you're watching, what do you think about Mo Salah possibly leaving, and Isak joining your club? And then for me, Victor Boniface, from a Nigerian perspective, Victor Boniface is scored against Bochum in the Bundesliga to help his side, Bayer Leverkusen, win 3-1 against Bochum in the Bundesliga game and to help them pull a bit closer to their Bundesliga title rivals, Bayern Munich, who have a game in hand, or rather had a game in hand that evening, and who I think probably will be playing it sometime soon. So he helped them score, and should have got the second goal, but it was ruled out for offside. I think, in my opinion, it should have been seen as onside, but possibly VAR was correct and was chopped off. But nonetheless, his side still won 3-1. He scored, and then he apologized to Nigerian fans. He apologized to Nigerian fans, saying goals will come. That was points to the fact that he hasn't scored for Nigeria ever. There's no, since 2 games or 3 games he hasn't scored for Nigeria. And then in the last World Cup qualifying sort of phase, the last World Cup qualifying cycle that just ended, he didn't really play that many minutes. I think he played was it 2 or 4 or about 6 minutes or so in the game versus Zimbabwe at the Uyo Stadium. So for me, I can't rule out Victor Boniface just yet, because if you remember what I said going into that game, I said that was the last opportunity for Victor Boniface to be seen as the second striker, as the second best player in the team. Rather the second striker in the team, with Victor Osimhen being the number 1 obviously, and then the second one should be Victor Boniface. And then I said the way for us to come to that final decision would be if Victor Boniface was paired up with, Victor Osimhen, and if he didn't perform then you can say we're out on him. He's been giving way too many opportunities. He should no longer be seen as that outright second striker in the Nigerian team. But strangely enough, he didn't get to play. And rather, we had Ademola Lookman having a free role, behind Victor Osimhen for the most part. So for me, he didn't get to play. He didn't get to show himself that he can actually, what he can actually do when he's played in the right way. So I still think he still has something to prove, for the Nigerian Super Eagles. And then speaking on Eric Chell, for me, I think I asked myself this question: why did he choose not to play Victor Boniface? Why did he choose not to play him? Because all this time we've been hearing about this formation 4-3-1-2. You play with these 2 strikers. And then come the World Cup qualifiers, you show in a team full of strikers. You had your Boniface, you had your Tolu Arokodare. You chose not to play Victor Osimhen with a striker, and you kept Simon Moses playing even when he was struggling, and you left Ademola Lookman in a slightly strange position, at least not a position he's used to playing anyway. So I still think Victor Boniface still has another chance, still has another goal, to play, to be invited to the Nigerian Super Eagles again, and be given that opportunity to be paired alongside Victor Osimhen. And let's see, because for me, this has been my theory all along. If you see a player playing for a club, and this is for international teams as well, and this is for club teams as well. Let's say you're a club, you want to sign a player that plays for, let's say, XYZ club in Spain. And he's a striker that relies on his pace. He relies on being the last man, playing off the shoulder of the last man. So he relies on that through ball, he latches onto the ball and scores. You've watched him, your scouts have gone to the stadium, you've watched him, that's how he scores his goals. Maybe he scores 25 goals and with 10 assists that season, playing that way. And then you sign him. You get him to your club. Now, rather than playing him to his strengths of, allowing him to latch onto true passes, they say, no. What we're going to do right now, we're going to play that ball into your chest. We're going to play that ball for you to fend off 2 defenders, bring the ball into your chest, hold the ball up, and give your teammates enough time to come up and join you, and you lay the ball off to them. But you don't want to give him those true passes that he's used to. For me, that's not fair on the player. And the same thing for a national team. If you have your national team scouts all over Europe, all over South America, even in the Nigerian domestic league, you have your scouts. They're watching these players. They're seeing how they play. You see a player. Maybe he's a player who is very left-footed, doesn't have a right foot, and he plays as an orthodox winger. He plays on that left wing, step overs, goes to the byline, puts crosses in the box, and then comes up with maybe 15 assists and 10 goals or 8 goals playing that way. It would be unfair for you as a national team to invite that player and play him as a left back or play him as a right winger when you know what his strengths are. And then if he struggles, you don't say, oh no, he's not good enough. Don't invite him anymore. No, that's unfair to the player. And if he goes to his club and he shines at his club, and then you say, oh, you see, this player, he doesn't really want to play for this country. He doesn't show that passion enough to play for the country. But you'll be wrong in that assessment. And for me, that is the same thing for Victor Boniface, in my opinion, is the same thing. Victor Boniface at Bayer Leverkusen, I've been saying this for a while now, he plays his best when he has people that he can play off of. When he has Schick, in that game, he was paired with Schick. The Czech striker was paired with Schick. Sometimes he plays with what was the German guy, Florian Wirtz. Yeah, sometimes he plays with Florian Wirtz close to him, so they can both dovetail and have good combination play, and then he scores from that. But when it comes to Nigeria, he's either playing as a lone striker with Auguste de Guavon. He was playing as a lone striker, and you could see that he struggled. And then that's why when I got excited when Eric Chil was hired as Nigeria's head coach. I got excited. I said, okay, look at how he plays. He plays with this 4-3-1-2 formation. So essentially, he will always play with two strikers. So for me, my excitement was finally we get to see Victor Boniface paired up with Victor Osimhen, to have that relationship, have someone to dovetail, to have that person to partner with. And then you have a number 10 coming behind them. So you have two people that he can partner with, pass the ball off, make secondary runs or drop off, while, to have that kind of partnership. But surprisingly and shockingly, Eric Chil decided that, you know what, first game, I'm not even going to play you. So don't even worry about it. I won't even play the first game. And then, the second game, I won't play you still, but I'll give you like 5 minutes to the end of the game and allow you to run about. And then you have people, because some people, when they watch football, with strikers, they just go. Oh, he scored a goal. Yeah. How does he score the goal? How does that player score goals for his club, versus how is he played, in the national team? So for me, I think Victor Boniface still has a lot to offer to offer Nigeria. And I see people talking about someone like Leon Balogun. I'm like, why? Leon Balogun, was he really good? People come with this experience thing. He was experienced, a very good son. He was an experienced player for Nigeria. Like, how? Was he really good? He wasn't that good. So I don't know what you're talking about his experience for. So, and then we have another transfer topic to talk about. And as a Chelsea fan, this just bites my brain. It bites my brain because yet Chelsea are linked with another wonder kid, just Real Villarreal, linked with him. Some people say possibly it could be a move for Strasbourg. But even Strasbourg, they're getting to a point where they're becoming saturated with players as well. You can't just buy every 17-year-old, 18-year-old and toss them to Strasbourg. You have to talk about their squad limit as well. They should have a limit of the number of players they can have. You already have an Oscar Pereira that you signed as well, and he's at Strasbourg. Don't know if he's really had the opportunity to have enough game time to play there. But you sign another supposed wonder kid again. And for me, I've been someone who has had this theory because People complain about teams like Brighton. They complain about Serie A teams. They say, "Oh, these clubs they buy players for 5 million euros, and in less than 2 seasons they sell the player for 100 million euros." For me, I've said, if you want to complain about this, because these clubs they take the risk of signing a player that is unknown, that isn't established, and they have to train the player, have to uh, um, work with the player to improve the player, help the player settle in Europe, and then get the player to the level where that player becomes attractive to the big clubs. So they take that risk. So as a big club, supposedly, if you want to bypass that middleman and not have to pay such extortionist or exorbitant transfer fees, then why don't you go to the source where these supposed smaller clubs or less fancy clubs sign the players from, and sign the player directly yourself and develop the players within your system? I used to have that mindset mentality, and I still do. But the way Chelsea are deciding to go about this, for me, is becoming ridiculous, because no balance. You need to have balance. In my opinion, you need to have balance. Now, you can decide that you want to sign 8 of these sort of young wonder kids. You can decide that you want to do that. But you should also say this to yourself, okay, let us sign, 1 or 2 experienced players that can help us win at the minute, that can help the team win, that can help the team get the needed points they need to get. And then people say, oh, I would a multi-club network, want to set up multi-club network all over the world and all that. But what you forget, let's just talk pure business now. If you want to set up a franchise, or rather, before you expect people to buy into your business enough that they want to have franchises that have the name of your, business attached to them, that your business must be profitable, must be an example, for every other person. So they say, oh, this is how I want my business to run. So I would copy the model of that business. So if you want to approach clubs and say, okay, we own Chelsea, we want to use the same model that works at Chelsea and apply it to this club, we want to buy controlling stakes in this club, you must be able to point at a winning formula. You must be able to point at a club that is thriving, that is possibly, competing seriously for the Premier League, finishing in Champions League spots without any qualms. And then that club you're going to purchase will say, okay, yeah, this is a good model. This is a good model for us to key into. But not when your club is struggling, not when your club is finding it difficult to get into the top 4, not when your club is finding it difficult to be in any sort of competition whatsoever. It doesn't make any sense, in that regard. And then back to that Crystal Palace, because I want to touch on something. Liverpool, Newcastle, Crystal Palace right now, they've gone to the semi-finals. And once you get to the semi-finals, anything is possible. You can head to the final. And once you get to the final, one mistake, one penalty, one wonder strike, and you can end up being FA Cup winners. Chelsea had the opportunity to go far in the Carabao Cup. Enzo Maresca and his coaching crew decided to play with the Carabao Cup. They didn't take it seriously and decided to joke around as well with the FA Cup. Out from all those competitions, not because if you're Liverpool where you're actually competing for the Premier League title, then maybe you have something to, compensate your fans or compensate yourself to say, okay, we're actually going to win the big trophy. We would have loved to win the FA Cup, win the Carabao Cup, but you can't get everything you want, but we win in the Premier League. But for a club like Chelsea that hasn't won anything in a long while, at this long while by Chelsea standards, you shouldn't have joked around with tournaments like the FA Cup, tournaments like the Carabao Cup. You have gone far, won the Carabao Cup, won the FA Cup the way it's turned out, and then that would have done a lot for the confidence of the players. Because one thing that is lacking right now at the minute is these players haven't yet had that feel of winning. And that's why I tell people that, you see, Mourinho achieved a lot at Chelsea, but the fact that he was able to get the team to get that feeling of winning early with that Carabao Cup win over Liverpool, that feeling of winning early with that Carabao Cup win over Liverpool, that was what set everything in motion, in my opinion. So that's what Chelsea needed at this time. But Enzo Maresca, for whatever reason, didn't take this competition seriously. Chelsea out of it. Crystal Palace, congratulations to them. That in the semi-finals. That's good news. That's good news for them. And then some other thing I want to talk about as well today. But before I do that, I want to ask a question for Liverpool fans. What do you think about Alexander Isak? Do you think he's a good addition to your team? Do you think he's who you should be going for, or you should be looking for a like-for-like Salah replacement? Because if you're signing Isak and if Salah would leave, then that means your style of play would change completely because you now be more focused on Alexander Isak's strengths, which for me I think is obviously different from Mo Salah's strength. Mo Salah is more of a wing type player, plays on the wing, cuts in to get that goal and all. So the style of play would have to change. So do you think he is a right fit for Liverpool? That's one thing to talk about. And then Alexander Arnold, Madrid fans, football fans, what do you think about Alexander Arnold's move to Real Madrid? Do you think it is something that's advisable? Because sometimes you go to Real Madrid and then you get swallowed up, and the fans there are not patient. They are not patient. The fans, the ownership, they're not patient. And while that has a flip side, while that has a sad side to it, a negative side to it, it does have its benefit because that's why they win a lot. That's why they're the record Champions League winners. So are you happy with Trent Alexander Arnold going to Real Madrid? Do you see any issues with him going to Real Madrid? Because one issue I see with Alexander Arnold at Real Madrid is his inability to defend. That's one issue. Because if he goes there and wingers keep getting past him, and he keeps getting tackles wrong, then that'll be an issue. But I feel Ancelotti could just completely switch him up, change him, transform him into a holding midfielder. Ancelotti may just do that because he's a coach that can do something like that. He could just end up taking up that Toni Kroos role, because I think that's somewhere he can fit in because his strength really is not defending. And also, even I know he's really, really important in how Liverpool attack, but his strength isn't even running down the flank with his pace overlapping, because for a fullback he's not that quick. So you could have that challenge there. So do you think it's really a good fit? That's what. And then the other thing we talked about earlier on in the show was about Chelsea's loss. Chelsea first team losing to an academy side. Do you see it as something, nothing, or everything? For me, I see it as something maybe, because you don't want to be losing against kids that look up to you, that say, "Oh, I want to be like Nkunku. Oh, this is the person I model my game after." You don't want to lose against them. But for me, I don't think it's as serious as people are trying to make it to be. So Enzo Maresca reportedly was fuming that the team lost. Well, he has the right to be upset. But for me, the issue I have is, come game day, how will you set up this team? That is a question. How would you set up this team? You can get angry at the team losing, to an academy side in a meaningless game. No one knows even how long it was. Maybe it was one of those games that could have been 20 minutes, a half. So we don't have more details on the structure of the game anyways. So, but for me, what's important is how you set up this team come game day, come the game versus Spurs. And, Palmer reportedly is back. Noni Madueke should be back because the prediction was that he would return from injury after the international break. And same thing with Nicholas Jackson. So let's see what happens. Let's see how that goes. And now, no more excuses. No more excuses, because a lot of Chelsea fans had found ways to create, crazy excuses. Some said, "Oh, Jackson was the man. That's why we're losing." And the Maresca style of play is impervious. There's nothing to criticize about it. Because Jackson got injured, that's why the team started losing. even despite the fact that when Nicholas Jackson was fit, Chelsea was still losing. He was missing a lot of goals that led to Chelsea losing. Some said, "Oh, Palmer and Jackson, they have this symbiotic relationship. They have this telepathic connection. They understand themselves so much. Taking one out of the team really affects the other one. Now Jackson is back, so all that excuse out the window. So, but good to have them back. Let's see how Enzo Maresca chooses to use them. But the same issues still abide, and that is one, inverting your fullbacks into midfield, not giving your wingers any support, allowing them to get doubled up on, allowing them to get crowded out. So those are issues that still remain. Is that how he'll go into the game versus Spurs, leaving his wingers isolated? If he still does that, then the fact that Jackson has come back, the fact that Noni Madueke has come back, may do little to change the fate of Chelsea. And it will be really unfortunate because this season I think Chelsea should be at least in the Champions League. Should have been title contenders this season, but whatever reason it didn't manifest itself. So should be in the Champions League groups. No, Champions League positions this season. You've heard all the talk about even fifth place. The fifth place team could qualify for the Champions League. For me, to keep everything safe, just try and be in those Champions League spots. In my opinion, they should be in those Champions League spots. Talk about Alexander Arnold going to Real Madrid, the Maresca FUMES, Victor Boniface Apologises, and then on that apology train, Wilfred Ndidi apologized as well about for the goal he missed against Zimbabwe. For me, all these apologies that players do, not just about Nigeria, but all the things the players do when the game ends, we apologize, we could have done better, we're sorry about this, next time we'll do better. How about you do better when the game comes around? When the game comes around, how about you do better? For me, all these apologies, I don't really need them. What I need is the best apology from in my perspective or in my opinion is come the game versus Rwanda, come the game versus South Africa. You beat Rwanda 3-0 at home. You go away, you beat South Africa 2-0. That is the best apology. Because all this social media apology, posting things on Instagram, while it's nice to see, but it's frustrating when the apology on social media doesn't match the actions on the pitch. So for me, and then speaking on players, I have done a match sort of a reaction to the player that I've talked about so much on the channel. That's Jude Sunday, and if you haven't seen that, try to see it, try to get your hands on it. And if you missed it, probably it's because you haven't clicked on notification bell, so you don't get notified each time a video gets posted on here. So try to do that so you don't miss any program or show or live stream that comes on the channel that you want to watch. So so that's a good one. Jude Sunday. For me, I feel with the way Eric Chell is playing right now, I think Jude Sunday is someone that can contribute. I'm not saying he comes in to be the main man or become a superstar in the team. I just think the quality he has, being able to play on the right wing comfortably, being able to play on the left wing comfortably, is something that the Super Eagles can use going forward. Not just in the friendly match coming up, but in the World Cup qualifier itself. Like I said, not just as a main man, but you can even use him at this point as a guided guy, a guy that can come in, slot into that right wing slot, that position, play very well, slot into the left wing spot, and play very well because that is his game, that is his bag, anyways. So that's it about Jude Sunday. So if you have missed out on that, you go watch that as well. So, and then speaking about things to expect on the channel, like I said earlier on on the live stream, I said there's a particular series that I'm doing on the channel right now, where I look at Nigerian eligible players that play for different academies or different European clubs. So I've done one for Bayer Leverkusen. So I talked about Francis Onyeka, and I talked about Ken Izoko and one other player. To find out who the player is, you check out that video as well. And then there's one for Chelsea that's coming out and that'll be coming out pretty soon. Also, there'll be one for Man City. So keep your eyes peeled for those programs coming up. So let's check some things that have happened live here. Barcelona, Arsenal will not prosper. And then let's talk about Kepa. Yeah, that's something I want to talk about. That's another bit of transfer news that's sort of linked to Chelsea. That's say Bournemouth would really want to sign Kepa, and obviously Chelsea are open to selling Kepa. And so for me, that's not too much. That's not something that bothers me too much. Although I feel he's better than Sanchez. It's clear he's better than Sanchez, and I'd say he's better than Jorgensen as well. Jorgensen for me has been disappointing. He's been good on his feet, but when it comes to shot stopping, he's been really poor. Being beaten at his near post is just something you can't forgive from a goalkeeper. So, but anyways, he Bournemouth looking to sign Kepa, and I think Chelsea should be open to letting him go because I think that's the best option. He's not going to come back to Chelsea and start anymore. You've got Petrovic, you've got Mike Penders. So for me, I think Mike Penders and Petrovic should be the number one and number two, or Mike Penders can even be the number one. But for me, Sanchez should be gone. Jorgensen, I don't know what you do with him. And then what do you call him now? I think you should allow Bournemouth to keep him, sell him off the Bournemouth. But one thing Chelsea has to avoid is this greed, or rather unrealistic valuation, where you look at Kepa and say, "Oh, we must get 80 million euros." You don't know. Sometimes in life and in business, you must count your losses. You look at him, the club spent XYZ amount on him, and it's been so many years. He's not really played, that long at Chelsea. Like really played at the club. He's been on loan to several clubs. You can't get the money you spend on him back. You let him go as opposed to keeping him, and you keep paying his, large wages. He's keep paying his large weekly wages and every other bonus, or at least some bonuses that possibly could, that may have been embedded in his contract. So for me, I think it's fair play. You let him go, get Mike Penders in. And for me, I know Pooh talk about Manion from AC Milan, but Mike Minion rather from AC Milan. But for me, will really be a game changer. Maybe if you can get him, but the negotiations will be too long and the deal will be really expensive to do. And for me, the goalkeeping position is a real concern for Chelsea. But I think the striker position, that number 9 role is even more important. It's more important than the goalkeeper, in my opinion. So for me, I think Mike Penders can hold the fort. He can be really good. I think he matches up to all, Maresca wants, because he's big, he's 6'7", he's good on the ball as well. So I think he can command his area. So I think he's someone that can be there as well. And then for me, another choice that you could look at in terms of goalkeeper is probably the Leicester keeper, Hermansen. I think he fits what Maresca tries to do with his goalkeepers. Though for me, I don't know why modern day coaches are so obsessed with goalkeepers playing out from the back. And when I mean playing out from the back, passing shots at the back. Because playing out from the back should normally entail, if I'm pressed by the opposition attackers, I should be able to play the ball long to a striker or a winger who's making runs in behind. But modern day right now, playing out from the back means you must play short. A series of short passes in every circumstance. Whether you have the opposition sitting on your head, sitting right in your bedroom, you must play short passes out from the back. For me, I don't know why, but Hermansen, I think he kind of measures up to what Enzo Maresca wants to do. But for me, what is more important is getting the striker. And yes, for me, Victor Osimhen is the person that you want to sign. That's just it. He is the striker you want to sign. People talk about Liam Delap. I just shake my head and say, Liam Delap, he is a decent striker. Don't get me wrong, he's decent. But Chelsea needs world class. And Victor Osimhen is world class. and he's light years ahead of Liam Delap. He's not even close. And it's a bit unfair on Liam Delap because they are in different phases of their football development. Victor Osimhen is near the finished article. Liam Delap, this is his first season in any top flight league in Europe. This is the first time he's played in the top flight league. And he's playing, people don't get this, people don't get these little details. He plays for Ipswich Town. And there's nothing wrong with playing for Ipswich Town, obviously. But when you are placed and seen, the way they are seen, most teams that come to their ground, come to play them, come out to play, don't play with the high line because you believe you can win town. You believe you can win against them. You come out, you play, you play with your high line, you high press, because everyone right now is playing with high lines up. Everyone is playing the same sort of football. And then that gives room and opportunity for a Liam Delap to find himself isolated 1v1, a center back who possibly slower than him, like a body, and get free and score goals. But when you play for a Chelsea, the demands are different, not just from your coach, not from just from your teammates, not just from the board, but the other teams that you play that you now be facing, because they see you that you're now at this level. You used to be here, you're now at this level. We're going to mark you differently. Your team will play differently. You have different expectations, because right now at Ipswich Town, if you draw with a Spurs, for instance, at home, it's seen as a good result. But if Chelsea draws at Spurs, it's seen as a bad result. So you see, the demands are different. In addition to that, this is his first season in the top flight, while you have Victor Osimhen that has that experience and has been scoring goals wherever he's been. And then as well, there's the question of leadership. At Chelsea, the team is so young. You need that leadership. And one thing I don't want to hear in the next 3, 4, 5 years, I hope that people are not still saying, "Oh, Chelsea is a young team. Oh, it's a young side. Give them time. Give them time." At some point, you have to keep winning. And one thing you want to avoid is to fall into the trap Arsenal that Arsenal fans fell into. You see this young 18-year-old player come play for Arsenal from the academy in those days, and then he plays very well. He grows. And because Arsenal, at that time would not be winning, then a club, maybe a Chelsea or an European club, would come in and say, "Okay, we want to sign a player." And then because that player is ready to win, he would leave Arsenal. So you don't want to fall into that place where you can sign the players when they're young, they play for you, show you some excitement, but when they are fully mature, then they are off. Now people can say, "Oh, but Chelsea tied these players to long-term contracts." Yes. But one thing you have to understand is a contract essentially is a bilateral agreement. It's a bilateral transaction. The two parties, that is, i.e. the player and the club, they come to an agreement on the contract. And definitely the players would have clauses in that contract, that would favor them. They could have escape clauses in that contract. They could have buyout clauses in that contract. And even if you value a player, let's say £100 million, if the player has shown that more promise, a club like Madrid wouldn't mind paying that money. And then you lose a player that you had in your club for so many years, and yes, you were expecting that player will help you win titles. But just right at the point when the player has come to that level of maturity, when he can help you win titles, he's gone. That is why, for me, there should have been a level, of balance. Not just signing every young player. Because right now you've got Kendry Pires, obviously expected to come in. Mr. William, though we're hearing sort of conflicting reports. I thought he was meant to join Chelsea and be part of the Club World Cup squad, but now we're hearing he will play for Palmeiras first, and then when he's done, we play for Palmeiras at the Club World Cup, then he joins Chelsea. But even still, you would have Kendry Pires, you have him, you have Noni Madueke, Wonderkid that people disrespect so much, and then you would have, but no one knows what's happening with Modric, and then you also have what's his face? You have Jadon Sancho already, because Reportedly, Chelsea have decided that they will pay the 20, the 25 million pound uh, um, fee that would, that was meant as the purchase fee for Jadon Sancho, because in the agreement, or the loan agreement, you had that obligation for Chelsea to sign Jadon Sancho once, as long as they finish above 14th. And that's it. This season, obviously, Chelsea will not win the title. That's clear. We'll have to battle to be in the top four, but definitely will finish above 14th. And they will talk about some sort of clause in the loan agreement that Chelsea could pay, whether it was the £5 million, and then breach the contract and not breach the obligation and not sign Sancho. But the reports right now that Chelsea are willing to sign Jadon Sancho, and the people are saying, "Oh, you're signing him so you can sell him." Yeah, even if you sign him with the objective that you have to sell him, he has to be good, for you to sell him and make profit. Because if you sign him for £25 million, he has to really be outstanding for someone to come in and pay 35 and pay 40 and pay 50. He has to really be outstanding. So you have all these players already in your team, and then this. So bottom line is, you have a bunch of young players. You have a lot of young players. So sign another young player for such an important position. Because right now, I feel if you're signing a striker, you should be signing a striker that a Nicholas Jackson could look at and say, "Yeah, okay, this is the person I want to be like. This is the person I can learn something from," as opposed to another young player where they both where you have him struggling, same time Nicholas Jackson is struggling, and you can say possibly they could learn off each other. But it's better you have an experienced striker that knows what it means to win, that knows what it is to lead the line for a top club, and then as he continues to score, that takes the burden off of Nicholas Jackson. And for me, I've said this before, Nicholas Jackson's best position could actually be that right wing. It could actually be the right wing. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, he can't," or not a lot of people, but some people are saying, "Oh, he can't play left wing." No, Jackson was a support striker. And you look at his skills, you look at his attributes, the good aspects of his game, his pace, his technique on the ball, his skill on the ball. That lends him nicely to play at that left wing, position. Because one, right now, except next season, he improves on it. He's not shown that he has that box awareness for one. Two, he's not shown that he can consistently take the ball in his chest and hold off, the opposition. And that's something you need to do, for a side like Chelsea. So for me, I think if you sign on the team, man, that would help Jackson more than it would deter him. So, and that's my take on Chelsea signing a striker. So in a bit, we'll look for some Nigerian news, Nigerian football news. There's some Nigerian football news in a minute. Yeah. Now speaking on some more Nigerian football news. So if you remember, there's a video that I've done on this channel where I talked about Nigerians, the top 5 Nigerian strikers statistically in terms of goals they scored for Nigeria, and the third person on the list, Shigun Odegbami, who scored, who's second who's third on the list, just behind Victor Osimhen. He's come up with a statement to say he knows Chus Ekong, would really be hurting from that mistake he's made, and he would always feel that pain forever. Now that's true. That's true. We expect that to happen. We expect the player to feel bad about it. But for me, the way to deal with it is matching up with a better performance come the next World Cup qualifying games. That's the only way to go about it. All this feeling sad, oh, we do this together, I'm feeling bad about it. No, you've done that, that's gone. You should prep yourself up for the next game, for the next set of World Cup qualifying games. That's what you should be looking to do, in my opinion. Because no need for all this feeling sorry for yourself. It's come and it's gone. Possibly you should learn. You take the game seriously, because at some point I felt like the Nigerian Super Eagles, the players themselves, weren't taking that game seriously enough. That's my opinion. That's how I think about it. So going into the coming fixtures, the demand still remains the same. Win every game. You have to win every game. That's the demand. You have to win every game. It hasn't changed. So going in the game versus Zimbabwe, Rwanda at home, you have to be looking to win it. The game against South Africa, you have to be looking to win it. And that game becomes even so important, especially if those 3 points are taken off South Africa. It becomes really important. It becomes really important because then you win against Rwanda at home, then you are still 3 points tentative, or you're 3 points behind South Africa, and then you go face them at home, you win that game, you get to be level on points with South Africa and get to be ahead of them on the head-to-head, since both teams drew in the reverse fixture in Nigeria. So there's no need to feel sorry right now. Even the NFF have to take responsibility. Certain players that were invited to that team, no, they shouldn't be there. Certain players that have been invited to that team shouldn't be there next time around. And for me, you all know the suspects. For me, people like Alhassan Yusuf shouldn't be there in the next round. We know we have midfielders like Ebenezer Akinsimero and Uche Crisantos. If you don't invite Ebenezer Akinsimero and say, okay, he's playing in Serie B, okay, I would understand. But Serie B for me is better in terms of the level of football they play than the MLS, where you invited Alhassan from. But if you're not inviting Ebenezer Akinsimero, then for sure you must be inviting, Uche Crisantos. You just have to, because this is a game you have to win. The NFL, they've played around with these World Cup qualifying games. They played around it. Started with Jose Pesero. There was no talk of his contract, being finalized. If you knew you were not going to go into the World Cup qualifying games with Jose Pesero, then why did you keep him? He was there, drew 2 games, then he left. And then instead of signing a top class, now that's relative, signing a real competent coach, you went and you brought in Finidi George and said that was your coach. And the team drew 1, lost 1. Then you let him go, and then you brought in, instead of getting your substantive coach, you went and you got a technical director to come in to be an interim manager or interim head coach of the Super Eagles. And there you have yourself in that spot of bother. Now Eric Chiel, fed used to him, is coming right now, and the pressure is really hard on him, because what he's being asked to do right now, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's very, very difficult, because right now he doesn't have any room for errors, doesn't have any room for any mistake, any slip up. He has to win every game. And that's why, when he made those, or rather, that's why when he chose to be stubborn going into that Zimbabwe game, and even in the Rwandan game, he was very, very stubborn. Even when you were seeing what was happening on the pitch, especially playing the likes of Ola, out of position, I was like, this guy, don't you know what you were meant to do? Don't you see the sort of precarious situation you're in at the minute? There's no room for errors, So the ask still remains the same, going into that those two games against Rwanda and South Africa, it's still the same thing. You have to go into those games to win both, because any drop points there means it's over, especially if you drop points and South Africa win, because you don't want to allow South Africa to get 5 points ahead or 6 points, and definitely not 6 points ahead, because that would mean curtains for your World Cup qualifying hopes. So, so that's my take on things that have happened in the last couple of days. I've talked about Alexander Arnold. What was your take on him going to Real Madrid? I've talked about that. What is your take about the reaction of Liverpool fans to his move to Real Madrid? I've talked about Enzo Maresca reportedly fuming because the Chelsea first team, were embarrassed by the academy side, and also I wanted to ask this question as well. What's your take on that Nigerian player, or rather Nigerian eligible young striker that scored against the Chelsea first team? And to be fair, he has also been scoring goals before that game. So what's your take on him? Once I tweeted something about him and there was no interaction for it, but when I tweeted about a Moroccan eligible player, Ibrahim Rabaj, has now decided to play for Morocco, there was far more interaction. There was a lot more. The Moroccan fans were very happy about the fact that they are going to get it. So what do you think about this cheesy Eze Nwata? For me, like I said, he should be coming to the under-20 AFCON. Obviously he's way, far away from Super Eagles, but he should be going to that under-20 AFCON, and let's see what he can do there. These are the things where we look back at what Chubakam said. Chubakam said, you don't have a lot of these dual nationals don't have that connection between themselves and the FA and the NFF and the Football Federation. They don't have the connection. Then when they're all full grown, then it becomes difficult. When they're grown, you start hearing things and then you get convinced about certain things, your reality gets warped. So that's it. So you need to have the connection. So what are your thoughts on, that cheesy Eze Nwata? Possibly someone for the other 20s. What do you think? Let me know in the comments there. And then as well, what do you think about Isak? Isak, do you think he'll be a good fit for Liverpool? Because we're having these reports and rumors, nothing finalized, nothing saying definitely he's going, but I think it makes for a good discussion about Isak going to Liverpool. Do you think he's a good fit? Or would you have rather maybe someone like Liao? Not because Liao is better than Isak, but I think Liao would sort of be a more or a similar fit to Salah in terms of what they bring, that pace out wide and being able to cut and create assists for other players while scoring as well. Like I said, but obviously he's nowhere near, Rafael Leao is nowhere near the level of a Salah. But do you think changing the way Liverpool plays to sign Isak is a good deal? For me, he's a very, very good striker, top striker. And you can say in the Premier League right now, he is the best striker in the Premier League. You could argue that, and you will not find any sort of disagreement from me, although I think Victor Osimhen is better than him, but that's a different discussion. So, what you're happy with Isak? For me, like I said, this is the time they have to sell Salah. You sell Salah, you should get an Isak in. I think the way Arne Slot plays at the minute, I think he's more flexible in the way he plays. He still plays attacking football, but I think he's a lot more flexible than a Jurgen Klopp. Because Jurgen Klopp always wants to have that central striker or semi-striker that's pressing, that instigates the press, and always wants to have his two inverting wingers that are more like right and left forwards that get the goals and get the assists from out wide and get the ball played quickly into them. And that's how Jurgen Klopp always wanted to play. But I think Arne Slot is a bit more flexible. And if you want to depart from Jurgen Klopp's style completely, then Arne Slot probably could be the person to do it. And this could then be the right time for you to get, what's his face, for you to get an Isak coming in. And then there's something I did mention, something that quite didn't really make that much sense to me. He said Jim, what's his name now? Sir Jim, the owner of Ineos, and then that part owners of Manchester United probably won't be coming to watch, or some people are saying he shouldn't be coming to watch Manchester United games. For me, it doesn't make any difference. If you come to watch the game, it doesn't mean you're going to win. If it doesn't come to watch the game, it doesn't mean you're going to lose. So I think fans just, grab at straws. For me, though I have reservations about where he chooses to cut costs from, stopping £100 donations, stopping or rather sacking, workers that probably would earn maybe £30,000 a year from Manchester United, when you have players that earn upwards of £100,000 a week that are not playing. Those are the people you should be looking to sell. Those are the people you should be looking to let go. As opposed to, you say you're cutting costs, and you're cutting costs in the wrong areas, in my opinion. But other than that, I don't think he has any bearing on United winning or losing. So that is the remit of Ruben Amorim, in my opinion. So people should just forget about. People should actually forget about Jim Ratcliffe. So forget about it. They should forget about that and focus, on the team. And then I've also talked about Crystal Palace. Congratulations to Crystal Palace. And like I said, Eberechi was so close to playing for Nigeria, so close to playing for Nigeria. And that's why I said, if this four-nation invitational tournament is indeed a thing, like if it indeed comes out that it's something concrete, it's that England are actually going to play against Nigeria, Jamaica, and play against Nigeria, Jamaica, and Ghana, then that should be an opportunity to convince a lot of dual nationals that you want to play for you to come in. For me, that could be present that opportunity. So the likes of Ethan Nwaneri, that could be the opportunity you need. Because I know how it happened for some players, and I know when Nigeria came into Super Eagles came into England to play a friendly game, that was the opportunity that certain players had to play for Nigeria. But the NFF sort of boggled that. They sort of got things wrong. So what's your take on that bit? So at this point, I've come to the end of this video, come to the end of this live stream. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your continued support on the channel. And I'll see you on yet another video. To have a splendid